In the 60s, you had Beneath the Street and, of course, the O'Brad's down on over on Locust Street. There were, in the 60s, and then you had the Scene and Gallagher's downtown. But then in the early 70s, it did morph into just, Zach's was there and Century Hall. Of course, UWM always was fair. I don't think UWM is as active in music as it used to be, is it? I mean,
No,
it used to be
I don't think so.
lots of groups playing there.
Yeah.
In fact, their coffee house is gone. They took it out, didn't they?
I don't know.
And then the Kenwood Inn. Yeah, the
Gas house?
The gas house is still
The
there.
coffee
Still
house
there?
on the first floor.
Yeah, that's gone.
Gas house down basement.
The gas house
And
is
the
still
gas
there.
house is kind of like a restaurant.
They used to have music there, though.
Mhm.
And they had it in the Kenwood Inn, too. But
They
that,
Kenwood Inn and the ballroom had a lot of good shows.
yeah.
But
Is the disco really kind of closed things down. And then the country theme, like I remember Tony Maki at Teddy's saying, I don't have any fucking band anywhere. See my fucking band, there it is. And then he pointed at it. It was the thing that you would ride, the horse that you would ride.
right,
I'll make more money off this fucking
I think
horse than any fucking band will make me.
yeah. I think they had one of those in one of the phases of Zach's before Damien.
Yeah, they probably did.
So,
Well, it was called the Humboldt Gardens before
Humboldt
he owned
Gardens,
it. I used
yeah.
to see Dave Phillips' band there with Dave Shostak and Jack Grassel. And who else was in that band? Andy
LaDuca?
LaDuca, yes. How did you know that?
Because I know his son very well.
And they,
Robert Safian.
I have
was
their
his
album.
stepfather.
They record. Oh, cool. They recorded an album at Studio East. So that was one of the studios. There weren't many studios in Milwaukee at that time, recording studios in the late 60s. That's where we went to Chicago to make our first album. The early 70s came, and that's the clubs kind of closed down until punk and new wave kind of got it happening again. We started playing up in Door County in the early 70s, and that has since become a bastion of originality, that and creativity, kind of like the new wave movement was here in Milwaukee. When Zach's opened up, and the Metropole, they used to have, but that was more late 70s.
Yeah.
There was a feeling of that the scene had died at the end of the 60s
There's
and
a
the
club
early
in
70s.
Sydney High. I remember seeing you the first
the
one.
Mine Shaft we used to play.
In
We used to call it.
1975, the fall of 75, when I first came to town.
Lost Touch.
You saw me play there with Byron?
Yeah, I was with Scott, somebody who was a light show guy,
Scott Marshall, yeah.
Scott Marshall.
Sure, he's
and
still
and his wife.
He's still good friends of mine.
Oh, really?
He
I
owns
haven't seen him in years.
Marshall Auto Body out in on Blue Mountain, and he's a multimillionaire now. He was always a hard worker and a smart guy.
He helped us out a lot.
He's
when we came
designing
back.
medical devices now, like a box that you put a heart in.
Mhm.
He designed that.
Yeah.
There's like a fortune in that.
Wow.
But he ran our light show.
By the way, it was the Lost Dutchman's wife.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's right. And then it became the Mine Shaft, though, because I have.
Was it really?
Sure, I have in my
remember the
scrapbooks.
Mine Shaft.
We used to call it Mine Shaft. Yeah, we did.
Sounds like it should be a
That's what
second
Byron
street,
used to call it. I've got 16 scrapbooks, and the first 4, there's ads in there where it says Mine Shaft. Sigmund and Byron at the Mine Shaft. That was, another club that kind of always was there. I think it was closed for a while, then it reopened again, right?
Reopened
It was
as
a,
Unicorn.
yeah, the Unicorn. And
That
then
was in the basement.
Yeah,
But the club where I saw you was not in the basement.
No, they
It was
had
like on the
upstairs,
first
too.
floor someplace.
Really?
I thought.
and you were with Scott Marshall.
Yeah, Scott and his wife.
And what part of town was it in?
It was at Sydney High.
Oh, it was at Sydney High.
I thought it was not in the basement.
Are you sure it was? It could have been another club in the 70s that had music. Has since burned down someplace else. Remember that it's an open space down by the bus depot where we
Yeah.
wait for the bus on Water in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And we used to have a studio that reminds you of the
blues
70s.
stuff.
The Iron Block building was
Yeah.
also a bastion. I had a studio in there. God, the rent was $50 a month for a place right downtown. Speaking of Nazis, I can remember we were just watching the Hitler channel on TV. I used to be down there writing songs, and the fucking Nazis would come marching down the street in Milwaukee in the mid-70s. Yeah, all in uniform and everything.
Yeah. I like my Nazis marching in uniform,
We'd-
rather than being hidden
Yeah, that's
among
right.
the populace.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, it's so stupid of them. How dumb can they be? So yeah, that Iron Black building was also a bastion of creativity, and there were artists and musicians and filmmakers and
Yeah, some people had some
ad
studios
agencies
and
and
there were
printers.
Some big parties.
Oh, the parties were notorious.
Yeah.
You'd open a door and there'd be two people in there, going at it, and oh, excuse me, boom. It was a fun time. It was there was a lot of underground stuff. The punk movement too was underground too, where they had a lot of. Did you guys have concerts like in houses and stuff in people's basements? And
In the late '70s, there were
Yeah.
a lot of basement.
the Haskell
parties.
Hotel.
Haskell Hotel.
Now you were in Dark Facade, right?
I was in Dark Facade.
I remember seeing you at the Century Hall.
Yeah.
When that
Was
place
it
opened up,
Tom's?
that was like a renaissance. When that opened up, that was kind of the end of the disco country bar era. Never really think of
Century Hall
Milwaukee's
kinda
being.
had two lives. One, the early one, back when they had the restaurant and everything,
When Max ran
and
it.
then in the '80s when it was
When John Sidoff had it.
Yeah,
a lot of blues bands.
it was more normal then.
Yeah.
The early incarnation has never been
Yeah,
repeated
Max
since.
Sampson was,
was
and is
way
still
beyond
a
anything.
brilliant man. Yeah. It reminds me, I owe him $5,000.
Forget it. It's a drop in the bucket.
I did pay a 10 grand note off to his dad's bank with my band. We borrowed $10,000 to buy. We had a great day at Uncle Bob's that day. Those were the days when bands used to have to carry around their huge PAs. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Because there were no PAs.
Is that Major Arcana?
No, that was my four-piece. Major Arcana was early 70s. That was a fun band. It was me, Jay Borgenhagen from the Baroques. The original Major Arcana was me, Jim Spencer, Jay Borgenhagen from the Baroques, and Tom Rubenthal from the Velvet Whip. And we played at Humboldt Gardens. That was our big...
And what year was this?
This was 1974.
'74.
And it was
okay.
Jim Spencer's songs, and he had just enjoyed the release of his second album called Second Look, which I helped produce and played on. And
And what was the name of the band with the Baroques and the
Major Arcana.
Major.
Arcana. It was the first version of Major Arcana. There was two or three other versions of that later on. I went back to having my own band. Although the Major Arcana band was fun. It was wild. Borkenhagen was a
And
kind
what
of a
kind of
wild.
stuff did you do?
We did Jim Spencer's songs, and we did
Okay.
some of mine. We did my song called "Mice in Milwaukee," which was kind of I've forgotten how it goes now, but it was really outside, trippy, jazz.
His songs were very
Parody.
eccentric, a lot
Yeah.
of them.
His were, mine were too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
And we did the song "The Devil Is a Fat Man" from his Second Look album.
Okay.
That wasn't punk.
I'm
It
not
was
real familiar with them.
his stuff was came from folk music, but also had a lot of country in it. But it was original.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry's a fan of Jim's. No, I saw you guys several times at the Humboldt, not Humboldt, at the Century Hall, which Spencer used to call Centipede Hall. That, and then he used to call remember the El Matador was on North Avenue?
Oh, yeah.
That was fantastic. You could go there at 4 in the morning.
We were just,
Yeah.
I was at
Palermo,
Wilkins
too.
on Saturday with a friend, and we were standing there looking
Uh-huh.
at that side of the street going, I used to live there. Marketplace was next door.
Yeah.
Heiser Ford. you
Heiser
know,
Ford, yeah. There was more of an urban feeling.
Matador.
It feels like you're up north now when you're on the east side. It's because it is. They're making it into up north for people from Indiana, which is a scary thought.
Yeah.
They're trying to get people from Indiana and Chicago to come up here. Spencer used to call the El Matador. He used to call it the ill-mannered whore. He had different names for it. He had his own religion called Waslam. What Islam was, Waslam is, and I was Cardinal Sin. That was my appointed, because I was always messing
Yeah.
around with girls,
Was there a guy that played Major Arcana? Who was that guy? There was somebody.
I don't know.
Was
I
he-
don't know that he was just a mysterious figure that always had that turban on
Yeah.
in print, but I never saw the actual Major Arcana.